order
Well,
at,
wait,
I will call the meeting to order at 6:30 on Monday, May 16th, 2022, and would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Bruce?
I'll second.
Kate? Roll?
Howery?
Yes?
Green?
Yes.
Fisher? Yes. Mooney? What do I say? Yes?
Just
Judge Wood? Tom?
Yes, we got you.
Got it. Confessor.
Yes.
All right, we will convene across the
All right.
street here.
I will end the webinar and we will reopen for open session.
So we're back in open session, and we'll look at our consent agenda items. The consent agenda items contains the minutes from the May 2nd, 2022 Board of Education meeting. It also contains our latest financial transactions, which are general fund vouchers 177567 through 177694, and 291672 through 291708, and purchasing card transactions dated 3/21/22 through 4/20/22. We have 8 professional staffing recommendations and 13 co-curricular staffing recommendations. It also contains 5 personnel items unnecessary for vote.
And 1 professional staff leave of absence.
Correct. I would look for a motion to approve or accept the consent agenda items as presented.
I move to accept the consent agenda items as presented.
Kate?
I'll second that.
Again. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You said aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Public, as of today, we had no public comments. Angie, if you
That
could bring
is-
us up to date and do
We-
your thing over
Sure.
there.
Sure, we have received no written public comments. And at this time, I would like to invite any members of the public that if you'd like to make a public appearance by speaking to the board, please utilize the Q&A portion found at the bottom of your Zoom window. In the Q&A, we would ask that you type your name, address, subject of interest, and whether you have discussed this item prior to the meeting with either a district administrator or President Howery. After submitting the information, I would transfer you over to the Speak to the Board.
Anything happening over there, Angie?
Nope, I do not see anyone registering.
Okay, so it appears as though we will move on to the next agenda item, that being our McFarland High School student report. Who do we have out there today?
I don't see any of our student reps that have joined quite yet.
Okay,
Oh, never mind, I apologize. I was forgetting that we would not have a members of the Connect Club, but they are. We do have members of.
okay.
No, they're on mute. They're on mute.
Kelly and Maya, if you'd like to, there you go.
Sure. I assumed Connect Club was things kicked off, but we will kick off here. My name is Kelly Thompson. I'm one of the co-advisors, along with Aileen Swan, for McFarland High School Multicultural Club. It looks like Zoe's just popping in. Angie?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll let her take the lead for a minute. If she is ready to go.
Looks like you're still muted, Zoe.
Oh, sorry. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, okay. Let me just pull up the presentation here. All right. Wrong thing. Oh gosh, 1 second. No. Okay. Sorry, Zoom's being tricky for me right now. Okay, wait. Oh. Is that Valerie that just popped in? Oh Lord. Sorry, I just can't get to my other tab right now. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, we just got some school updates, an update on our club, and then we're going to introduce Multicultural Club. So, quick recap. McFarland Craft and Vendor Fair was held on Saturday, May 14th. So, this Craft and Vendor Fair was in the A Gym and the cafeteria. Students from our Spartan headquarters marketing class organized and ran the event. In addition to running the school store and their own vendor station called Spartan Made, and over 45 local businesses and others sold their products from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it was really awesome. Lots of student volunteers. It's a great event. This Saturday, the 21st, McFarland High School Music Department will also be hosting Blues in the Night, showcasing the talents of our jazz bands and singers, which includes some of our a cappella groups like Kittens Mittens, the Blue Notes, Pitch Please, and our jazz bands, the Early Bird Jazz Band and Second Lake Jazz Ensemble. And then kind of an update on our club. So this Friday on May 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. in the Webby's Intermediate School cafeteria, we will be holding a night to connect. Tickets are still available along with walk-in tickets purchased at the door. $15 per child pre-registered and $17 at the door. All proceeds go towards our club for funding our kind of goals during the 2022-2023 school year. Talked about this last time, but just kind of wanted to give another update on that. We're all prepared for that and we're really excited, and we'll probably host something like it again in the future. And so now I will turn it over to Multicultural Club. Just let me know if you need me to go skip a slide whenever you need to, Maya, Kelly.
So I'm going to let Maya take over. I'm one of the co-advisors of MHS Multicultural Club, which has been in existence for, I think, 4 or 5 years now. And we've done some exciting things this year and have some exciting things coming up in the next couple of weeks. So Maya, go ahead and take it away. Zoe, you can switch slides.
Hi, my name is Maya. I am a junior and I have been in Multicultural Club since my freshman year. So some of the things that we've done this year is shown on the screen. I think some of the bigger things that we accomplished this year is the BSU field trip at the Black Holocaust Museum. This was a collaboration with BSU and Multicultural Club, so people from both clubs could go. It was a really big learning experience for everyone because there was a lot told and a lot of things shown at the museum that makes people feel uncomfortable, but in a good way, because it's something that people need to see and show the flaws of America's history. And then we also went to Daddy's Soul Food, which is a Black-owned family business. They have very good food there, so yeah. And then we had some representatives for the Unite Against Hate event for the domestic terrorism, which was back in January. That went very well. It was very successful. And then recently we started to connect with students at Stone High School. They have a group called the Undivided after some incidents happened there. So we're hoping to hopefully meet with them eventually in our upcoming events, which is going to be a meal, which will be shown on the next slide. And then I'm also a representative of the DEI committee, so I like to fill in my club for what is going on in our community as well.
Zoe, you can switch slides.
So some of our upcoming events is we're going to be meeting with IMMS, the People of Color Union. Me and one other representative from Multicultural Club are just going to meet up with them and just kind of see what they talk about and just kind of collab together. And then we're going to do a fundraising event. All proceeds will go to an organization to help support people in Ukraine. So we were thinking about selling ice cream during lunch, and then, like I said, maybe making a little slideshow of what is exactly going on in Ukraine and how even once, Russia or Ukraine backs off, there's still going to be a lot of recovery that needs to be done. And then our annual cultural meal is going to be our last upcoming event this year. We are hoping to ask the Stoughton, people from Stoughton to come with us for our cultural meal. And yeah, that's kind of our end of the year plan.
Zoe, you can switch to the last slide. Here are some pictures. Back in December, the club had the public library display case for the month. So that gave us an opportunity to showcase some items from students' cultures. And then the other two pictures are from back in the fall. We hosted an after-school gathering for our exchange students from other countries, and as well as our new students at McFarland High School. The cultural meal we are super excited about. Obviously, the last couple of years with COVID, we haven't been able to have that. And that's where students bring a food that is a cultural food or a family favorite, and we just get to enjoy each other's company and enjoy the good food and try some new things. So it's been a good year, and we're looking forward to continuing to collaborate with other groups. So, any questions for Maya?
Anyone?
Yeah, Maya, I have a question. Are you thinking of meeting with any other schools? I mean, I see you got the Undivided from Stoughton. Have you guys thought about kind of reaching out to other area schools?
Maya, do you want to highlight the event that you went to with Miss Nichols too?
Oh, yeah. I went to an event with Miss Nichols and a few other representatives. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but we met with a lot of other schools. And it targeted, it was about a half a day event, and it targeted a lot of different topics, actually, not just how we can deal with like ending racism, and it also was an event about acceptance. So how can we accept people of the LGBTQ community? How can we make mental health more acceptable, and that it's okay to go through mental health? And that was probably one of the biggest things since COVID hit, where we were able to collab with other schools. Next year, we'll definitely be able to collab with more schools. Hopefully that COVID's just, kind of peaking off more. But yeah, Stoughton is definitely our big first step into something big in the future for Multicultural Club. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because I would think you're going to pick up ideas, and they will in turn pick up ideas from you, things that really work well, or they may even have questions about, we're struggling with this. Have you guys got any things that you've been able to demonstrate that have worked? So I think it's wonderful.
Tom, have you got any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. What's your vision of how this group will look like and sound like and feel like in 3 years from now? Well, what's the long-term vision?
Just for everyone to be accepting of everyone's culture. Everyone comes from a different place. Everyone's family celebrates different holidays and different celebrations. I feel like a majority of people are wrapped around the main holidays like Halloween, Christmas, or Easter, but not many people look at Day of the Dead or Hanukkah or Cinco de Mayo. It's things that are just kind of overlooked. And I just kind of want to, in our school, make it more normal and for people to be able to feel comfortable to celebrate those around their peers. And also I know it's hard with like, finding teachers of color too, but just for students of color and different ethnicities to form better bonds with their teachers as well. Because, in a school like McFarland, it's obviously hard because there isn't that much diversity, but just having a better understanding of everyone, of peers and teachers and staff, and going forward in our future. So, yeah.
I also noticed that at the middle school, the group is called Union of Color. Is that correct? So why not have the same term at middle school as high school? What's the rationale for that?
I didn't, Aileen Swan, who's my co-advisor, works in both buildings. And so I believe that's a very, very new group. So part of the reason we're actually going tomorrow afternoon to visit is to learn more about how that club even began and begin to learn more. So I will freely admit I don't know a whole lot, as it's a very new club.
And I don't have any thoughts of either one. I was just curious.
Right.
But I applaud your efforts to start the high school and include middle school at this point.
Yeah, we definitely want to start to aim towards the younger generations now too, not just people at our school, people in middle school, and hopefully eventually Wabisa. For United Against Hate, at least we were talking about doing read aloud of cultural books rather than just your typical books that are read to children. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I would say from a staff perspective too, I think Connect Club and United Against Hate have been really beneficial in connecting clubs that are wanting to do a lot of this, similar work. So I applaud Connect Club and United Against Hate for sort of opening the lines of communication, I think, between clubs, so we know what each other is doing and working on. It's great.
It really seems to be an action group, which I really appreciate.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much. I believe it would be hard to think that anyone here would not be in favor of all the initiatives that you folks are tackling moving forward. And I think if ever there's a time that you feel you need additional resources or just ideas, please feel free to come to the board. We're absolutely happy to assist in any way we can to further causes like this. So your efforts are much appreciated.
I'd be happy to send the board, once we have the details firmed up, to get the board details about the cultural meal. And if you're available, maybe any of you can stop by and check it out. So
that would be great. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Sure thing.
Anything else? Okay, thanks very much, and have a great week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we have a facilities presentation by the McFarland Hockey Board.
I don't know if there's enough copies for everybody, but.
I will begin sharing my screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Osterhaus. I'm the president of McFarland Hockey Inc. And we're going to get our presentation up here in just a second. So, I'm sure the question you have is who's McFarland Hockey Inc.? A lot of people think that the community ice rink in McFarland is owned by the city or it's owned by the Hockey Association. None of those things are true. It's actually owned by a nonprofit organization that was created about 25 years ago for the purpose of building a rink. And it took about 5 years of fundraising to make that all happen. We did things like smelt fries at the Greenie. We did bingo at the Park Ponderosa for 5 years, and I personally did bingo every week for 5 years. But we made enough money, $250,000, to actually buy some land where the current rink is. We actually own the soccer fields there that are there today. We have ultimately sold that to the city to build the soccer rinks, and we actually own enough land there to actually have a second sheet of ice and our new expansion that we're looking to do. But it's been it was an undercapitalized organization from the beginning, and if you think about an ice rink, anything that breaks in an ice rink has a $100,000 price tag associated with it. And we just had to replace our Zamboni, which was $165,000. But in any case, it's been a work of love. I am the 4th president in 25 years of the association. Art Roston, our treasurer, is here to support us today. And I think we've had 4 treasurers in those 25 years. We are all, everyone on the board, I think, except for maybe our figure skater representative, their children went through the McFarland School District, which was a great experience for all of them over the years. So if we could go on, please. So our mission statement, and this is something that's really near and dear to us. Our job is to provide a place for children of McFarland and Dane County to skate, and that might be hockey, it might be just free skating, it might be figure skating, but our job is to make sure there's a high quality facility for the next 100 years. And we take that literally every day, that our job is to make sure that rink exists, because we have no one giving us vast amounts of money to make it run every day. We have to make our bills like you guys do every day. And we're actually, a part of it is also to expand the opportunities for all children to skate. Whether you're coming to skate figure skating or youth, no one's turned away because of their inability to pay. We have a booster organization that works diligently to provide equipment. If you can't afford your dues, we will find a way for you to play. And this has been the way it's been for 25 years. So what has McFarland Hockey Inc. done to support McFarland Hockey over the years? So I can't tell you how the mission of everyone was to make sure that our children, as they work their way through youth, could have a place to play high school hockey. And we all wanted to be able to do it under the Spartan logo. And we made that happen. It was a lot of hard work by hundreds and hundreds of people, actually thousands of people over the years. And they've all maintained it. So, a little bit, can't see everything I've written. But anyways, over the years, we've provided people the ability to skate through the high school. We actually, thank you. And actually, my own 2 children played in youth and in high school. One of them went to the state tournament with hockey, and the other one actually made the front page of the Wisconsin State Journal sports page. And there's no better day for a dad when that happens. I can guarantee that. We also provide for the last 20 years scholarships for hockey players, and it's been based on academics. And all of those scholarships over the years, those people have all gone on to college and finished hockey, or finished college. We also, about 15 years ago, there was no locker room for the high school, so the boosters, which I was part of that organization, and Hockey Inc., we actually went out and fundraised $150,000 to build locker rooms. Now, they're not really locker rooms, they're more what we call European drawing rooms, which if you know hockey, the equipment stinks and they don't want to take it home. So basically we blow a lot of air through this room after practices and games so that the equipment doesn't have to go home. And the kids can actually store their equipment there, And it actually works out pretty well, both for a varsity and a JV team. And we also have worked very hard to keep the costs down for the high school. We obviously have to run a rink, so it's expensive, but most of the hockey players pay a fairly large portion of what they pay every year in dues to the Boosters Club so they can play high school hockey. We also do summer ice, the captain's ice. We fund that through low-cost ice and also providing coaches for that. This about 10 years ago, we built a high school locker room, or a high school coaches room for the coaches. Last year, we turned it into a girls' locker room because obviously more and more girls are playing hockey. And then we took our storage room and turned it into a high school lock for the coaches so that they have a place to be. And you'll see later on that we're trying to change all that so they actually have a little nicer facilities. And we also obviously built the girls' locker room. And then we've also many times, the McFarland and Parochial schools have used our ice for gym classes over the years. We also have an active figure skating club that uses they're probably our second largest provider of user of ice in our organization. We could go on. So what are we trying to do with the expansion? The first thing we're doing is we're building a training rink. And the training rink is going to be a small version. We actually have an Olympic-sized ice rink, which we're the only rink in the Dane County besides the university that has an Olympic-sized rink. But when we have ice mites, little guys, skating around, they don't really need, you know, a 200 by 100 piece of ice. So we're building a little rink, which is going to be 80 by 50, so we can use that for the younger kids and use it for other off-site training stuff, so that we can open up more time to be sold on the big rink for people that are larger, take up more room. We're also going to be producing shooting lanes, which are ways for kids to actually practice shooting without using the big ice again, so we can sell that to more other people. Here's where it gets some interesting. We're looking at building a high school locker room, a real high school locker room this time. Locker room will have space for up to 30 children to have a locker, a real locker this time. We're going to have showers. We're going to have ability for the coaches to have whiteboards, video, so they can work through the games and things like that. That's a fairly expensive piece of real estate to build, and we'll get to that in a little later. We're also going to be providing figure skating's their own locker room, because currently they don't have a locker room. So they're going to take one of the European drying rooms and turn it to that after we fumigate it. There's the figure skaters and the hockey players, whether they're boys or girls, are two different groups of people. They don't see the world the same. And we're also going to expand our lobby, because our lobby isn't, when we have high school games, it gets very crowded. We're also going to expand the concession area, because that also gets expanded, and then more restroom facilities. And then I'm going to have Bart come up and talk a little bit about what we're going to do.
So this is the exterior.
Yeah.
So currently, everyone knows you pull in and the main entrance is here. This whole east side is where we're looking at expanding. The training rink will be on this end, and then the high school locker room will be more over here. Yep. And we also want to add a players-only entrance. So right now, they all go through the main entrance of the lobby. It's very congested, and their bags are very big. Same with the figure skaters, they have equipment they bring in. So by making a players-only entrance, it will open it up for visitors and guests. Okay. So proposed. So here you see, starting back, I don't know, we'll start at the front here. So here would be the players-only entrance. We do need a larger conference room, but it would be used by the teams and the coaches also. The off-ice training center would be used by figure skaters. They do their yoga, stretching, Pilates. Right now they do it all in the lobby because they have no other place to go. So this would be used by them, and then for hockey development, they do dry line training. I know some of you have been coaches, Coach Fisher. So you know how important it is for athletes to do their training and stay in shape. But that would be utilized by the hockey and figure skaters. We could also use it as a meeting room. So if a company wanted to have a large event, they could use this in addition to renting the training rink if they wanted to have open skate during one of their meetings. High school locker room. So that would be here. And I think there's 25 to 30 lockers proposed. So entrance, showers, coach's office. Right now, the coach's office is at the far end of the rink, very far away from the high school locker room. So, yes.
I'm sorry, where is the current entrance on the hockey
Current
rink?
entrance is, it's up here.
Okay.
So yeah, we do have the other.
It's right here. So that's where they come in. We're proposing that there's a player entry here.
Okay, so everything you're showing us is the right side,
This
the
is
new.
the entire.
Okay,
So this is the current building, and then this close-up is
Got it.
the section on the bottom.
okay.
Okay? Okay, so back to the high school. So anyway, putting everything together for the high school team would be beneficial, I think, for everybody involved.
Nothing ever goes wrong in the locker room with unsupervised children.
So then the training rink would be utilized for Learn to Skate, and Brian had mentioned the little groups, the little people. We could have 3-on-3 tournaments. We've got the Hockey Factory, which is the player development program that we brought into the rink in the last year or two. Christian would be able to do one-on-one training or small group training for this hockey development. The figure skaters, they prefer the Olympic size rink because they need a lot of area to get their speed up and do their jumps and stuff. So they would use it for their Learn to Skate program, but probably that's about it. Then there would be 2 additional locker rooms added, men and women's bathrooms, and then there's storage here for the high school team. And there would be bleachers here. So the U6, U8, they could have the games on the training rink, and then the shooting lanes are down here. So that's it.
Any questions on that?
Are you gonna put equipment, exercise type equipment in your training room, whether it be, stationary bikes or treadmills or weight?
It won't be a complete, right now the vision is not, that it will not be a complete gym, but it'll have dumbbells and maybe some bikes for people that need to stretch out, for people that are injured, there'll be stuff to work on, but right now we look at it, we're trying to build a summer program for all sorts of, so that families can drop their children off and they can be supervised, they can do skating, they can do drills. So we're looking at using that area for dry land training. And not a complete gym, but who knows if,
Sure.
all this is expensive. So if we have, things go on and we make money, maybe that's something we would do in the future.
And you have a training room for, a Jay Hansen or somebody to keep equipment over there in case of, injuries during practice or
Yeah,
games?
oh yeah, we have complete medical facilities and a what do you call it, a heart shocker, I don't know what the name of it, can't think of it.
Defibrillator.
Yeah, defibrillator, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the building?
Tom, do you have any questions?
All right, we can go on here, if you would, please. All right, so with the high school, obviously, we've been through most of this. For what the high school will be expanding on this, could you go to the next one, next cell, please?
Tom, I think, no, you're not muted. Did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. First of all, what's the average cost that a family spends being a participant on the hockey team?
So for the high school, besides their practice equipment and their skates, which can be fairly expensive, probably $700 to $800 for a high school player, and about the same for a youth player after they get out of ice mites.
It all depends on the number of skaters they have each year on the team.
Okay.
So obviously, the more players per year, that will bring the cost down.
So the ice has a fixed fee to it, and if we have a varsity and a JV team with 30 players out there, it's going to be less than if we have a varsity team with 20.
Maybe Jeff and Brian, you could both answer it. you know, given that that's a pretty significant hit for a family to take, and if, you know, God forbid you have two hockey players in the family.
Always happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. But is there a way by which, you know, it doesn't become a sport only available to those that can afford it?
Like I said, no one has ever been turned down in McFarland for the inability to pay at any level.
Is that with the district also as well, since it's a high school sport?
The boosters will actually make up that money for them. They can ask for a review, and we've always found the money to allow anyone to skate at any level.
That's great.
And I would say we're the only organization that has done that over the years, for 25 years. Any child that wants to skate has skated at McFarland.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
So fundraising, we're gonna have a donor wall, pretty typical. We're doing some advertising. Obviously, the rink has a lot of square footage, so we're gonna be doing advertising, and we've been working on that. We're selling some, the Zamboni. We've got a lot of money coming in from that. And then our expanded expanded operation, we will have the ability then to use the small rink. We will actually be selling that as ice time too.
And Brian, do you think, is it possible, I mean, I would think you must be thinking this in these ways, that by having that smaller rink, you're gonna be able to then be renting out the larger rink for a longer period of time?
Here's the interesting part about running an ice facility, and maybe you should probably understand this. During the season, we can rent every hour of ice we have without any issues. It's when we get to the summer that we can't sell all those hours, and that's why we have the hockey factory today and working on the camps. And so we have a need for more hours during the winter, and that little rink, it's not gonna change our finances that much, but it allows us to handle more children. Okay, and have more groups there, more figure skates. I mean, we've had university teams use our rink when they come in to play the Badgers. They'll do their practice there at the facilities in Madison. We have girls teams, we have speed skaters, we have synchronized skaters. You wouldn't imagine all the people that that utilize our rink, because we do have an Olympic-sized sheet of ice, which, again, all the money that people dump into this, the little nonprofit is the one that actually built an Olympic rink. And then our financing, other than what we need to fundraise, is going to we're working with Community One Bank, who've been very helpful to do the financing. And we hope to break ground in the spring of 2003. So I know you're all just dying to ask, what can you do to help? And I know you have no other competing interests or money needs in this, but we're here to, so what we'd like to do is talk about building a long-term relationship. I mean, for 25 years now, we've done the high school, and we really haven't asked for much from you guys. The parents have paid most of the fees. We've had 25 to 30 players. We're looking to up this and provide the hot locker room. So we're looking to do a long-term 20-year agreement, or 30 if that fits your plans better, where we'll have you for 6 months. You can use the locker room. It'll be the exclusive use of the high school and the coaching staff and all their storage and all that. We'll pick up the entire cost of operating the locker room, the interest from actually building it for the rink. The high school players, as they are expected today, they monitor their own locker room. We do not clean it at all. If they want to live in squalor, they can live in squalor, but they don't. If they actually are forced to, they actually keep their locker room spotless. And any damage they're also responsible for. But it's amazing when you request that or demand that of them, that's what they actually do. And we're also we will maintain we will do the showers, we will maintain them, because we just really don't want an outbreak of anything bad. So we'll do that. And then what we're asking for McFarland School District is to make annual payments to help us through our building project, starting at $12,000 a year, and with an annual increase of $300 a year. And you guys all understand the inflation that we're dealing with right now, and I'm sure your budgets look like our budgets do, so we could go to the next screen. So here's what it would look like over 20 years. It would be the life of the contract for McFarland School District would be $297,000. And that amount actually equates to less than 50% of the acquisition and the operating costs and the interest costs of actually building the locker room. So the locker room, remember, the $2.5 million facility was almost $500,000 to build the locker room. So what we're asking you is to pay roughly little less than half of the operating costs for the next 20 years. So you'd start out at $12,000 year one, and 20 years from now, it would be $17,700. If you want to go for a longer period of time, that'd be great. I suspect, like we found at the end of 20 years with the rink, just about everything was breaking down. So we've had lots of big major expenses over the last few years because about 20 years is the life expectancy. But again, you guys run your own facilities, you understand that. So that is our ask. And you know, again, we would like to do this so when we go to the bank, it's really nice if we come with a contract in hand, and we're going to do contracts in hand with other associations that'll be using the little rink. So there's a lot of youth hockey organizations in Monona and other places that would love to get our facility, you know, to work in the facility. And I think McFarland may be the only high school that plays hockey that hasn't signed a long-term contract with another rink in the city of Madison. So anytime all the other high schools have long-term contracts. Little different relationship. Again, this was people who wanted their children to be able to play high school hockey, but almost I can't think of any other organization from Sun Prairie to Stoughton to anybody that hasn't had a long-term contract with their school district with a rink. Even the parochial schools have long-term agreements. So that is our presentation. And then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Art can answer them. Anyone?
I have a question about what is your annual revenue and expense operations?
Our revenue.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, Barb, you may know better than I do.
I can look up the last.
Well, it's about $750,000 of revenue a year, and that's just for the running of the rink. And
the facilities.
And we spend pretty much all of our money. We have a rainy day fund, obviously, to replace Zambonis at $165,000. The last chiller piece we had to replace was $125,000. We're still using the bleachers that we got used 25 years ago. We replaced the boards we got from the North Stars about 10 years ago for $100,000. And the chiller came from the state fair in Milwaukee, and we're still using it to this day. And it was old and decrepit when we bought it, but it runs. And it's a little expensive to run, but it works.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Tom, have you got anything? No?
I'm curious, what are the ticket prices for attending a hockey game for spectators?
High school.
That is actually, the high school actually runs that, the boosters in the high school. I think it's
It's $5.
$5 now?
I think.
$5
All
a
right,
game.
my children graduated from McFarland 20 years ago, so it's $5. But I think it goes into the fund for ice purchases, I believe, correct?
Yes, yep, it does go towards some of that. And I do know that every year, Kristen, who is the boosters treasurer, she works with Coach Tuma and Jeff, I believe,
And Paul Ackley.
Yep, to determine, they know how many high school players will be coming in for that upcoming season. And then they factor in fundraising, if the team is gonna do fundraising. They guesstimate the spectator attendance. There's a lot that goes into figuring, but I know they do that every year because it changes every year, so.
Okay, thanks.
Are your numbers staying pretty steady, or are you seeing?
Actually, our numbers are up. We sent every youth team to state this year, which we haven't done since my kids were little. We've got, with the Hockey Factory, we're going to have more high school players next year than we've had in a long, long time.
So long, yeah.
Maybe since we were co-opted with Oregon.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So our numbers are way up, our youth numbers are up, our figure skating our numbers are up. Even our numbers for open skate have been up this year
Yeah, it's been
without COVID.
crazy.
Okay.
Thank God.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Thanks very much.
Yes.
Thank you for your time today.
We'll
Thank you.
certainly talk with Jeff and Paul and the powers that be and see if this is something that is feasible, you know.
Okay.
We're happy to contribute in, you know, any way that we can. Hockey is very unique in that from the district standpoint, the former athletic director always said that there's a way that you manage and handle all the sports except hockey. He said in hockey, you just get out of their way. And basically, you know, they've always run the concessions like clockwork and run all of their events, and all you're gonna do is kind of mess things up. If you get in the way, just, it's always been, it's expensive.
It's a very volunteer-intensive organization.
Right.
Always has been and probably always will be. This is my 50th year being involved with youth and high school and hockey. I started when I was 18 years old coaching my first youth team, so that tells you how old I am.
Yeah, that's easy math.
I actually have, I thought of a question. So the life of the contract, or the contract that you're asking for annually, what does that encompass? Is that everything, or is there still ice fees and things?
There'll still be ice fees, yes,
Okay.
yeah. This is for fundamentally, the locker room, it's basically for the use of the locker room. And then, you know, there's hot water, there's maintenance, there's cleaning still, even if kids maintain it. There's a lot that goes into that. Again, it has to be heated, it has to be cooled. So there's a lot that goes into it. Again, historically, we've picked up all of those fees, but world's a changing place. It's harder and harder to maintain our budget numbers and keep hockey. Our goal, again, is to make sure there's a rink for 100 years and kids can skate. Anyone that wants to skate can skate, and that's our mission, and we take that incredibly seriously. And that's why we're here today. If we could do this without you guys, we wouldn't be here. But you're intricate. Without you guys, I don't think this is going to happen, to be fairly honest, because it doesn't work. At least in the format that we're looking at today.
I had a question just about ice time and the times of ice time. So as a longtime middle school administrator, I want my middle school kids to have ice time as early as they can so they can get to bed
Yep.
and be ready to learn tomorrow. Do you see the training rink having any impact on that?
Absolutely.
Or? Okay.
Here's how it goes. High school gets first pick
Right.
all the time because they have to, everybody else has to work around high school. When we set the schedule for the winter, high school gets first pick because of their games and their practices. When we have a JV team, sometimes the JV team will practice at 6 in the morning. Okay, varsity starts at about 4:20, 4:30. It's great because you guys we're so close to you guys,
Yeah.
being a community, that they can all be there and be on the ice by 4:20. Coaches want to practice more. They want more ice time, so we usually get an hour and a half for them. And then they start from the youngest children forward. Our goal is to take the ice mites, instead of the ice mites being and they're on the ice on Sunday now, I believe, and Saturday, but take the mite teams, which are 7 and 8, the middle schoolers, maybe early elementary, they're on the ice next. So we get them home. Our goal is to have everybody before high school to be home by hopefully 9:30 at the latest. We have don't believe me, we have parent pushback, we have coach pushback, we have, kids don't care, but then they have to get up in the morning. So the new ice facility will allow us to, again, we don't have enough ice to sell anybody but to fundamentally McFarland and the figure skaters. So we would be actually getting them out earlier. And then at 10 o'clock, then the adults start coming in. And they skate till midnight, and maybe later. And I skated way till 1 o'clock in the morning. We started at 10:30 when I was still playing, at 10:30, and played till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And there might have been some beer drinking afterwards. I can't say there wasn't, but that's how it goes. That's during the busy season. In the summer, nothing's going on.
Are there adult leagues still?
Oh yeah, big time.
Every night.
Every night.
Yep.
7 days a week. It's actually our largest, youth is still our largest. Figure skating is our second largest group, then high school is our third largest group. And then comes adult leagues,
Okay.
as far as revenue.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just to piggyback off Kate's question, so to clarify, the $480,000 cost of the high school locker room is for the actual construction and expansion, and then the contract that you're asking, starting at $12,000 a year, is for the maintenance and operations of it on an annual basis.
Yeah, it will actually pay so we're going to take a loan out, and it'll be principal payment, debt payment, heating, cooling, water, all of that is that the $490,000 is only the construction cost of that.
Yes,
I did not include any, it's really hard to determine how much heat goes into the locker room versus how much heat goes into so we just use some plug figures. But the numbers that you're seeing, the 490 is just construction costs.
Right.
Showers, bathrooms.
Structure.
All that's fairly expensive stuff.
Okay.
And we actually asked our builder to break it out for you guys. Actually, Jeff asked me to do that, so.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate your time today.
We appreciate
for
your
coming.
visiting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on. We have material selection and reconsideration procedure presentation from our Department of Teaching and Learning. I believe Melissa Pohl is in the house.
I am, and I have some expert colleagues with me this evening as well. So we'll get set up.
Excuse me.
No problem.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Hi.
All right, and we do have one member of our team joining us via Zoom. Melanie Neal is joining us on Zoom. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
We'll start here with introductions, and then the information I'll share with you tonight is kind of to expand on what you got in the McFarland minutes last week about selection, the reconsideration process, and then we'll have time if there are any questions from the board about the information you read ahead of the meeting. But I do want to start with introductions, since there are some new board members. I am Melissa Full. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning for the district, and I have all of the library media specialists for the district here with me this evening. Each of them can introduce with their name, which building they work at, and maybe share how many years they've been in the district or a library media specialist as all, and you can round or approximate as you would like to. All right, so we'll kind of go down the line, and then we'll end with Melanie.
All right, I'm Sheila Fay. I'm the high school librarian. I have been with the district for, I think, 15 maybe years, but the high school librarian for 11. I started as an aide in Wabeesa.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Martin and I am the librarian at CEPS. This is my 6th year in McFarland, and I was previously a classroom teacher in Deerfield, so happy to be here to share the information with you today.
Hi, I'm Joan Evans and I'm the library media specialist at Wabeesa Intermediate School. I've been a licensed librarian and educator for 36 years.
No.
I began my career as a classroom teacher, teaching elementary school. I've been a librarian for 25 years. 19 of those have been here in McFarland.
Fantastic. Welcome. Melanie.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Melanie Neal. I am the librarian at India Mound Middle School. This is my 16th year in McFarland. I have been an educator for 32 years and started my career in special education and then made the transition about 22 years ago to the library field. So thanks for having us tonight.
Welcome, Melanie.
So this presentation we've been working on since the beginning of March. We had some members of the team attend a conference and they heard some information and thought, we should just look into our policies and procedures and make sure that everything is, we all understand what our roles and responsibilities are. And so we've been working towards coming here this evening with you for 6 weeks or so. We are quite happy with how our procedures are, and we just wanted the chance, before anything would come up or could come up, that you had a chance to meet the team and ask questions so that you're clear on how the procedure should go. Like I said, you received a summary of our full document to review last week with the minutes, and we can answer any questions that came up for you. But I want to start with saying what materials are. So materials, books is the first thing that might come to mind. But it also, and books specifically in the library, could also include books that teachers bring in for their classroom libraries, could include pieces of music that the band teacher selects for their classroom, movies, podcasts, any sort of media, websites, apps, all of those things are really included in that broad category of materials. And for each of those materials, they start by being selected. So how do they get selected? It is a process that is, as intentional and thorough as possible, that revolves on how is this material going to help us achieve state standards and how students learn the skills that they need to be successful. We also want to make sure as we're selecting that we're following the guidance that the board has given us over the years. Starting in 2017, the school board passed a statement of inclusive curriculum that states in part that we're committed to ensuring that all students see both their own and others' perspectives, beliefs, and cultures fairly and accurately represented to the greatest extent possible in what we teach and how we teach it. So we really take that statement to heart as we're selecting materials for that broad meaning of the word. The board further had resolutions in support of diversity and equity in 2020. And just this spring, the resolution in support of transgender, non-binary, and all LGBTQIA+ students that gave us some further guidance in terms of what the board is hoping for teachers and all members of the district as we're working towards that goal of having students be fairly and accurately represented in all that we do. Now, those statements, whether intentionally or unintentionally, really followed this idea of materials or books specifically being mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. And that concept is something that was written about first in 1990 by Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop out of Ohio State University. And she was a children's literature professor and researcher. And I want to read just a portion of what she means when she talks about mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. Books are sometimes windows, offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become a part of whatever world has been created or recreated by the author. When the lighting conditions are just right, however, a window can also be a mirror. Literature transforms human experience and reflects it back to us, and in that reflection, we can see our own lives and experiences as a part of the larger human experience. Reading then becomes a means of self-affirmation, and readers often seek their mirrors in books. When we think about how we select materials for classroom libraries, our library curriculum, those are our guiding principles. We want to make sure students are able to see themselves, see others, and then be able to walk into those worlds that authors have created for us. That's kind of our selection piece. Reconsideration. So part of our school policy, there are rights for students and parents that includes asking questions and having conversations about the things that have been selected and the materials that are in our schools. And as a part of that process, the board policy states that it's the board's preference that matters are discussed through informal discussions, and it's only when informal discussions don't produce a resolution that we enter into a formal process. In the 5 years that I've been Director of Teaching and Learning, we've never had a formal request for reconsideration. We don't currently have any formal requests for reconsideration on the table. I think in the time that you all have been here, we've talked about some that we're aware of from other districts. Have there been formal? Okay. So it's not something that's happened in McFarland. We, again, wanted to be ready, so our work has not been in response to anything in particular. It's just been being proactive and making sure we're aware of what our procedures would be. So that formal response would include the person who has a question or would like us to reconsider something, completing a form after they've had that conversation. They'd complete a form and it would come to me, and then I would form a committee that would be comprised of a different library media specialist than the person who selected the book. We discussed that as a group and we thought, the person who selected it made the selection, and now it's kind of bringing in a colleague to check our work or to provide a different perspective. It would also include the principal, a teacher from that building, and 2 parents who have children in the building where the material is located. I would be a part of that group and facilitate the conversation, but I wouldn't vote. I would just provide the information and help write up the materials at the end. Each member on that committee would read the complete work. They would read any relevant, they read the request for reconsideration, that form that the person provided. The person who selected the material, and I'm saying library media specialist, it could have been a teacher or a curriculum coordinator. The materials, again, come to us in lots of ways. But the person who selected the material would also write something. That person would not be present as we're deliberating, but they could submit something for us to consider. We'd review professional reviews of the material, and then ultimately vote and make a decision. If it's unanimous, we would write up our reasoning, why we made the unanimous decision that we did. If it's not a unanimous decision, there'd be kind of a majority opinion and a minority opinion that would be brought forward. So that if it does end up in the hands of the school board, you would be able to see the full breadth of what the committee was thinking as they considered that material. When the committee makes the decision, we would let the community member know. At that point, they might say, all right, I understand your reasoning. I see how this falls in line with your selection process, and that could be the end of it. Or they might say, I'd like to appeal this to the school board. Now, that's the first time you've heard me mention you all and your role in this process, and that's the first time you would really come into having a formal role in the reconsideration process. Now, that doesn't mean as you're walking down the grocery store or out in the community that requests might come to you spontaneously. All right, so should requests come your way, what I would request is that at that point you direct them to the principal of the building where the material's housed. If you're not sure which, if the community member or you aren't sure, direct them towards me and I can make sure it gets to where it belongs. But at that point, please try to refrain from giving any personal opinions about your take on the book at that point. We want to make sure that we're taking the feedback from the community seriously and that we're really considering it thoroughly in light of all of our policies and procedures. And sometimes, I know when I am first, I'm at the grocery store and someone asks me a question, if I try to just answer off the hip, I might not give it the full consideration that it deserves. So if you're receiving any sort of request for reconsideration, we will make sure that they are directed to the right person to have that informal conversation with, that they get all of the paperwork and everything that they need should they want to engage in a formal reconsideration process. Now, if it does, goes through the committee, they end up asking for an appeal and it ends up in the board's hands, we would provide you a copy of the material. We would suggest that you read the material in full if it is a book so that you're reading the entire work in context. We would share with you how it's used. Is it a part of the curriculum? Is it a required book? Is it a choice book? Is it a book that's on the library shelf that is an option for everyone but not a formal part of the curriculum? Where does it sit in context? We would also provide you with professional reviews that the committee looked at, as well as that majority and minority opinion of the committee. Now, the policy says that at that point, the school board, and this would be where the consultation of the superintendent, whichever superintendent it may be, would guide you through this process, but the policy says that the board will determine on a case-by-case basis whether its review will include appearances by the petitioner and administration, be conducted based on written submissions, or only on the record produced through the resolution process. So the board would decide how you would like to consider this if and when it might come your way.
Very complete thinking.
We've been thinking about it a lot. So that is our quick overview of everything. And I know you had some written materials. The team is here so that they can help, provide context and answer any questions. Is there anything that you'd like to know more about with this process?
Tom, do you have any questions, comments?
I was a couple things. First of all, the media specialists historically have been very proactive. I appreciate all the work that you've put in up to this point and the work that you'll do in the future. But one of the most important pieces is that if anything came to the board, I appreciate that being part of the policy that we as board members read the book also. One thing that we cannot do is make a sound decision on partial information or hearsay information. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, we agree.
And the appropriate edition. So there are several editions of books, and so you want to make, that's in our document as well, making sure that we're reading the same edition that is being in question and that we're all reading that same piece. So
I would like to say, I do have a question, but first I want to just thank you guys for being really proactive about this. Because obviously in the last few years, we've passed resolutions that really align with the procedures that you've set up. And I really appreciate you guys being kind of the frontline defense for all of our students and what they're learning. Equity is one of my passions, and a podcast happened to be what kind of started it all for me. So I really thank you for all that work on that. And then one follow-up question. So you said that there hasn't been any formal requests for reconsideration, but how many informal, feedback do you usually receive in a year?
We had one recently.
The elephant in the room is finally revealed.
Yeah, and that hasn't been the only one.
no, but I've had, in all the years I've been here, a handful, maybe every few years I might have one or two. I would say it happened more when I was at the primary campus. I had actually more questions about content there, but that it was resolved in ways that didn't need the formal reconsideration process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had one this year. It was apparent that a second grader took home a book about mammals, and it was inaccurate in the text of the book. So I was really thankful that the parent messaged me to let me know. And, I think a majority of the time it's, situations like that, where they understand it's impossible to read every single text in your collection. And we need the help of the community with that. So I was really grateful.
This year was the high school's first.
Okay.
So since I've been here for 11 years.
Okay. Wow. Seems like the.
And I can tell you that I've had multiples. I mean, our middle school parents are top notch, honestly, and they pay attention to what their kids are reading, which is really important. And I always highlight that when I have informal conversations with parents who question some of the things that we have in the library. So at the middle school level, it's really difficult because you have a huge wide range of readers. We have kids in our building that are reading at a kindergarten level, and we have kids that are reading adult level and beyond. So usually just an informal conversation with parents. That's what I've had experience. I've never had a formal challenge. Don't want one. But just with the conversations, and I think parents understanding that we're not the enemy, we are in it with them and the team members, and we appreciate parents paying attention to what their kids are reading. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So you mentioned that you have a list, you talk to the other districts in the area and kind of keep a list of maybe some of the informal challenges at some of the surrounding districts, is that correct? Or-
There is a list, we don't have one internally, but the American Library Association nationally keeps track of which books are challenged.
Okay.
And then I think in about May, it should be coming out soon if it hasn't already, they release what are the titles that have been kind of nationally challenged across the country.
And then do you guys discuss those if they're in the library and kind of decide whether or not to leave them, or do you just leave them, I guess?
In our case, we would just leave them.
Okay.
How are, and this is just your normal, average, everyday additions to, whether it be our library or classroom libraries, whatever. How closely are those works vetted? I mean, does someone read each book before it gets approved, or do you depend upon reviews and those sorts of things, recommendations?
Yeah, we cannot read the full book, but we do depend on reviews.
Sure.
Yeah, and as a librarian, we would go also, not only with the library, like the library reviews, but we also look at, for instance, if I'm purchasing things that support the science curriculum, I go to those standards and that professional organization, and I see what they're recommending as well. So it's not just the library community, it's,
Sure.
the other professional communities out there, because I do not claim to know all of this. That's why I'm a librarian. I want you to learn. So come back to me with your answers.
Very well.
And I think, like Amy said, that book about mammals, she hadn't read, it would be impossible for a person to read every book in the collection. But when something's brought up through that informal conversation, Amy would have read the book at that point and said, oh, right, this has factually inaccurate information. That's a book that we can weed from our collection based on that. And I cut you off, Sheila, sorry.
No, I was going to say the same thing. We use professional publisher reviews, and then also look at recommendations from other groups, so book lists and things that will come to us. We try to have 2 professional reviews for every book that's put in the library. And for curriculum, we dive much deeper and read, if not the whole works, a huge chunk of it before it's added as a choice book or in our book room or somewhere else. So kind of a next level after the book on the shelf.
Okay.
And that piece, I would say, is much more of a practice 6-12, where we have the smaller ELA teams. K-5, there are so many, thank goodness, there are so many books in our schools, K-5. And so I would say the selection process, it's not random or arbitrary, but it doesn't have as close of an eye. Melanie and Sheila are able to keep a much closer eye on the book rooms 6-12 than we are K-5. The library is a different situation. The libraries at K-5 have those professional reviews and that vetting process. The classroom libraries at K-5 is a kind of next step in our work that we identified as making sure we're communicating with teachers so that teachers are aware of these processes as well. And then asking them, to think about the books that are in their classrooms and decide, is that something you want some more support from our library specialists to make sure that they are quality materials for students to have on hand?
Sure.
I just remember as a classroom teacher working with you, Sheila, and you would do the best you could to try to read all of the books in there. And over the years, we would change, we'd make changes. We'd say, I don't think this one is as good as this or whatever. But it's such an enormous task. There's just so many books out there, and I think it's wonderful the job you do. And very fortuitous that you guys were working on this in March. It's amazing. So thank you very much.
You mentioned, looking at things from year to year, and that's also part of our built-in system, is we call it weeding.
Yes.
It is actually
It
a
is
professional
weeding.
word.
It
It
is.
sounds strange, but that's every year we go through and we find those things that are no longer current, right? Or that, and the language now is not would not be contemporary or a depiction of, yeah, just so we have lots of things that we look at, not just is the book falling apart.
Sure.
Those are usually the ones we want to keep longer because that means kids keep checking them out.
And I may add, sometimes then we have a very excited librarian come in and say, ooh, there's a good one that came in. And so then we've got 10, one's gonna have to go, and it is a weeding process. It was a lot of fun, but a lot of work.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
We appreciate all that you do, looking out for our best interests, which we know is always the case. And I appreciate it's timely that we become aware of what processes are out there and how decisions are made, and just thank you. Thanks very much for all that you do. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Tom?
There's many things that occur behind the scenes that our librarians do. I think that'd be a whole nother topic sometime for presentation, because our media specialists in McFarland are not the typical librarians that you might see elsewhere. There are so many things that happen behind the scenes, and the support that they give teachers and individual students to aid and support what's happening in the curriculum. I think that would be worthwhile to share that with the board sometime in the future. And I applaud.
We'd be happy to.
That's a great idea.
Excellent, Tom.
Yes, yes.
No arguments. for
Thank you,
Melanie.
Melanie.
Bye, everybody.
Good night. Okay, moving on, District Administrator's Report.
Well, the first part is that you received 3 of our drill reports, so every time that we hold a drill, we create a report, then we send you a copy, so you have them each month. This one, we had 3 of them. One was at Conrad Alvium, and then we had 2 at Wabisa. So they just outline, basically, a lot of these are practice drills, sometimes they're medical holds, but you got the copy of the 3 of those. And like I said, every time we run a drill, then we'll provide you a copy, and we keep that on record. And then you received lots of reading material. Now, I know that you just could not wait, and you've already went through every one of these, but just in case you didn't, the family handbooks are not ones that require your approval. But we send them out each year, what the building principles, and they're all available. They work on those. So we've showed you what the corrections were, so if we made some changes, because we update handbooks each year. So what you'll take a look is you can see if we cross language out, because it may no longer be the appropriate language, if we've updated language and we've added it. Then you see there's actually 2 sections to most of these handbooks, in that there's a district section. So they basically have worked together saying, look, this is material that is common to all of us. So they have that as one, so that wouldn't change basically from year to year. If it does change, it all changes together. And then there are specific things that deal with each one of the schools. This year, we even have a 4K handbook. So this year, you also see that. So if, as you are taking a look at that, and if you do have any questions, then please contact the building principal, because they can explain exactly why they made the change in their particular building's handbook, and they'll explain that to you. And then what we'll do is we will produce all these, and they'll be ready for the parents for the next school year.
So when would you like those?
If you have
A question?
if you have something you have a question on or that, contact the building principal as soon as possible, because once school is out, then we start the formulating process, so they would appreciate knowing it as soon as possible.
Okay.
I do have one question that's not really related to the handbook. It's more of a general question. For the high school, in the handbook about the senior release based on GPA, what is I know that the high school is still in transition of the grading processes, right? What's the last graduating class that has the GPA? Do you guys know? Is it this one?
I think it's this year. I think
This
this
year?
is the last year.
Jeff?
We always have grade point average. We're not going to have class rank. This will be the last class without class rank.
But they all have GPAs.
Okay.
Yes, always have a GPA.
My kid's a freshman, so I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and the next part is, we had, obviously, earlier this month, we had our joint meeting with the village and the school board. Basically, we talked about two different items. One you're gonna talk about later on, and that's, of course, the landfill. But we also talked about the common playground. So, at the joint planning committee, it gave administration for both the village and the school district to continue evaluating and creating plans for a mutual project on the Wabisa school site for athletic space upgrades, playground upgrades, in addition, support facilities of concession, storage, and restrooms. So basically, I think this was one that says, how can the two entities work together so that instead of duplicating, we can combine to create one, one space rather than each of us creating our own spaces. I think it shows a great deal of teamwork. So we're continuing to work on that, but I do think that will be very positive going forward because people will be able to see that, two groups are working together to make the most use out of taxpayer dollars. And last but not least in my report are your upcoming board meetings, and your next one is on June 4th, which is a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. We will have you out by 11 because I have a birthday party in the afternoon, and I don't want to face the ire of my daughter by being late. So fortunately, it's in Cambridge, so not that far away. But that's our first one. Then, of course, that's on Saturday. We have graduation on Sunday. We have next board meeting on Monday, which happens to be my birthday. So you may not see me that night because we may have a light agenda. But Jeff and Aaron have already told me they are more than capable to run that meeting because my usual birthday routine is we go to Nitty Gritty for dinner and I get
your mug.
You don't want us to join you for your birthday?
Oh, you're welcome to join me for my birthday.
Adjourn quickly.
I'm not a party animal, but you know what? I can always learn. So those are the things that are under the other board meetings. We have one on the 20th. The one on the 20th, just to remind you, is we will have Shayna Lewis, our board attorney, present at that meeting to go over basically roles and responsibilities for the board and the superintendent.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions, comments, interjections, that sort of thing? Okay, then next we have, let me catch up here a little bit. Discuss regarding update to policy 5200.01, full-time student.
Now you have a copy, and this is a request that's coming from the high school administration and guidance department. And what they would like you to take a look at is changing the definition of a full-time student for seniors and have them be allowed to take a minimum of 6 credits than a minimum of 7. Their rationale is this will align us with other high schools in Dane County. Most of the other districts only require 6 credits the senior year. Seniors are working more hours to pay for college and life after high school. They already have a heavy course load, and many of them taking AP courses, which we have been testing for almost every day this last couple of weeks. They've often exhausted their course possibilities of their own career and interest. And finally, it reinforces the gradual release and better prepares our students for college when they won't have anybody dictating their schedule. But Mr. Finstead, and I think the representative from high school guidance are also available. If you have any questions, this is a first reading, so there is no action. Depending on the thoughts and comments, we will put it on for action at a future meeting.
Any comments?
I have one question.
Sure.
And is this something that you wish would have happened as far as the change a while ago versus now?
Absolutely.
And if so, what has taken us so long to get to this point?
It's a good question.
Is it our fault, Jackie?
I don't know. I mean, this has been like a struggle since probably the last 10 years, I feel like, and
Maybe someone here can help me. I don't recall having this ever on an agenda before. Of course, it's been a lot of
They
years.
waited for the stars to align
I
perfectly
guess.
so that everybody could have the same similar thought pattern. It just happened to be now.
I think too, we had looked into it more with other districts around the county. And that's when we're like, wow, we are one of the only ones that still have this policy. I think that was like the really telling moment, like we got to really bring this forward.
So when did they start that, Jackie? How many years ago was it kind of beginning, the process to go to 6 credits?
Oh, the other districts?
Yeah.
I'm safe. I know DeForest was one like 6 years ago, so it's been a while.
Okay.
Is there any downside to not changing the policy? You look at pros and cons. I don't see any downside to it, really.
I mean, we always tell kids, we want you to take as many electives as possible, right? That helps you find out what you like, what you don't like. So obviously, we always want kids to take the most. I just think senior year, it just gets increasingly different with all the different circumstances, right? To kind of force all these kids to maintain the 7 credits, and that can impact athletic eligibility and all that. So it's like we're having to be really creative on our end, getting them these work experience and apprenticeship stuff, and kind of getting all this creative stuff just to kind of meet the number when that doesn't seem very authentic.
And moving to 6 would eliminate that?
Yeah, it sure would help a lot. Absolutely.
Okay.
Do you have?
Go ahead.
Yep, I have a couple questions. Do you have feedback about how it's worked in the other districts? Do they say it's worked really well, or do they?
Yeah, I would say most of them, when we asked, couldn't believe we're not doing it. And I think a lot of the same things that Jackie just said. It's definitely less kind of patching together these schedules that the student doesn't really want when they could be elsewhere, when they could be working. So I think the flexibility has really been appreciated by the other schools, and especially by the seniors. Jackie and I spend a lot of time arguing is probably too harsh of a word, but bargaining with seniors on, there's a lot of pushback, explain why, and we're like, okay, I don't know. We're gonna go to the school board and we're gonna figure this out. So it's definitely in the best interest of our seniors. And I think something we've heard from students is it's something good to look forward to when you're a senior, is having more of those opportunities and being able to get out of the building and do some things.
Okay.
Do you think there'll be some kids, or could you give me an estimate, how many will not take advantage of it? Will say, I want to have a full load? Is that you think there'll still be seniors who are going to do that? I would think there would be.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially we have some students who will probably try to take every AP that we offer and try to load their schedule up that way. And then some students just want to be in the building all day. And some students are in the building all day because of transportation or sports, or they have to take a younger sibling. So some of those factors will affect students' decisions too. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Jackie, a percentage?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kids are so different, right? And there's some kids that are interested in everything that we offer in every area, and they'll do a full load. And then there are some kids, quite honestly, that kind of have a more narrow group of classes that really, get them to school. A lot of times, let's use tech ed, for example, kids that have kind of exhausted that curriculum, it can be a struggle. So oftentimes those are the ones that want to go out and work and do that hands-on kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in answer to your question, Craig, I mean, I really do believe it's in the kids' best interest to take these classes, if they can. I mean, it's a great experience, but I mean, the reality is it isn't just going to happen. So in some ways, why are we, smashing our head against the wall when it's not going to probably make a difference? The only thing I was wondering is if there was a way we could somehow, I mean, I don't know, I'm thinking of just crazy ideas, but, somehow try to, recognize those kids who are doing those things without at the same time making them look like they're goody-goodies or something. But I mean, it is a positive thing if a kid is taking their senior year, taking a class that they never dreamt of taking. I think we should be rewarding them or certainly complimenting them. But it has to be done, I guess, carefully. So, anyway.
And again, this is the first reading, so
Yeah.
give it time to mull it over. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, please send them either, probably to me, if not to me to Jeff. We'd make any revisions and bring it back for an action item at one of our next meetings.
Sure. Tom, do you have anything else?
No, I do not.
I have one more.
No, that's
I
fine.
feel like I'm the
Megan.
question lady tonight. And I think you kind of answered it already, but my other question was just if the students had been polled or, you know, what their thoughts were on it, but it kind of sounds like you already know that.
Yeah, at our senior exit interviews, like that's come through, I feel like too, on the data.
Okay.
It's been a trend for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Nothing else?
Thanks.
Thank you very much, ladies.
For the opportunity.
We'll certainly take it under consideration and let you know as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney, the floor is yours.
Could I make a special request? Could you move to item 12B? We have several
You got
students and a
students.
teacher that are
Oh, sure.
here this evening for action item 12B. Not that they would maybe want to spend 10, 15 minutes on budget, but I think they've been waiting. So if you wouldn't mind going to 12B, Craig?
Okay,
Which is
12.
the discussion and possible action on adoption of McFarland School District Sustainability Resolution.
Absolutely.
Raquel
Happy to.
and the rest of the Eco Club, are you still there?
I did send them a copy.
Yeah, we're here.
All right.
Only one of us can talk at a time. Do you want to go ahead? Yeah. Otherwise,
Uh-oh.
okay. Hi, is it echoing?
No, sounds good.
No?
You're good.
Okay.
You're
All
good.
right. Okay, so hi, I'm Felicia. I'm a senior at McFarland High School, and I'm a member of the Environmental Club here, and we're here to basically present to you guys our sustainability resolution, which we have been working with Mr. Mahoney to develop for the school. And so does everyone have a copy of the resolution?
Yes, I believe we do.
Okay, awesome. So just to go over a little bit about what our group is about. So we're the McFarland High School Environmental Club, and we focus on environmental initiatives in our school. And we've been doing some projects involving like waste audits and also like improving biodiversity in our communities. And so we wrote this sustainability resolution because many of the other schools in the area have been passing sustainability resolutions that like set goals on what they want for the future of their school. And we also want to set some goals for McFarland. So assuming everyone has had a chance to kind of glance over the sustainability resolution, I'm going to skip the preambulatory clauses and just read the main clauses of the resolution. Now, therefore, it be resolved, all future MSD building projects will be planned with sustainability in mind, including water and resource conservation, renewable materials, and power by renewable energy. Now, be it further resolved, MSD will annually set future renewable energy and energy reduction goals in conjunction with the MHS Student Eco Club by January 31st. Be it further resolved, MSD will reduce net landfill waste annually per student by working with the MHS Student Eco Club to develop strategies annually by January 31st, focusing specifically on the classrooms and cafeterias. And then be it further resolved, MSD will provide educators with guidance and resources on how they can reduce waste in the classroom and make plans with sustainability in mind. Be it further resolved, MSD will work towards creating a culture of refuse reduction within our schools. Be it further resolved, MSD will ensure all students, staff, and other faculty members have access to climate education. Be it further resolved, MSD will identify partnerships and grants that would allow the district to achieve its goals. And finally, be it further resolved, MSD will continue to have administration participate and partner with the MHS Eco Club to develop new initiatives and or leadership groups that help to foster a better future for our current and future students. These groups will meet at least twice a year to update goals and strategies. Yeah, and we also wanted to give time for people to ask questions about the contents of the resolution. So.
Okay. Anyone have comments, questions? Tom, have you got anything?
No, the only comment I have is that it's a very ambitious undertaking. But it's an undertaking that I think we really have to take seriously and strive for.
I just want to say how just happy I am that the school, or I should say really, Raquel, you've taken this under your wing, and you ladies have done, I think, such an outstanding job, and I just really appreciate you taking the leadership role in this whole thing.
And this is an action item, so you can vote on this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I also just want to say thank you so much for bringing this to the school. I think it's a really important opportunity for high school students to model for our younger kids and also shape people's behaviors for as they grow into adults. So I really, really appreciate the work you guys are doing. Thank you.
I would add kudos to each and every one of you. These are initiatives that are incredibly important. And I'm just extremely proud of you and the work that you're doing, keeping, I believe, McFarland in the forefront of addressing some of these issues that are controversial in a lot of ways, but I think most would agree are exceedingly important. So again, we're very proud of you and the work that you do, and we would support you. I can't speak for all, but I would support you 100%. Kate, you have anything?
No.
Okay, if I may just add, I forgot to mention, Mr. Mahoney's role in this, and if you don't mind, kind of dovetailing off what you just said, Tom, I'm assuming that you guys talked about these and looked at these as reasonable, because I think that is important. So thank you for your work as well.
It's been a joy to work with them, and we actually, this resolution was more, and you read all of the key parts, which are more an action item plan versus just a resolution. So they've been wonderful to work with.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to just one last point. I believe there's this whole idea of sustainability. There's another pillar, another leg, as it were, and that has to do with biodiversity. And this talks about something that's extremely important: global warming, resource development, or resource savings and recycling. But I think at the same time, we as a country, as a world, have to start recognizing the loss of species that are going to affect everyone on this planet, including humans. So I just hope it's something that we can further look at some point. But you guys are like the leaders, and just thank you so much. So.
First, I would also add, imagine what would happen if we do not approve something like this.
Right.
It would be just a continuation of how we're progressing down that road right now. So I'll be looking forward to that resolution in a couple of weeks.
No, it's right now.
It's right now.
Yeah.
It's right now. We got a chance to
You
vote.
can
Is
commit
there-
now.
Are there any
Don't
other
have to wait.
questions or comments? Or if not, I would look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I will second that
Okay.
wholeheartedly.
We got Bruce, Megan as a second. Any other questions or comments?
Jeff, will there be a cost implication for this?
With regards to us working towards sustainability,
Yes.
there's always going to be a cost,
Are they
but
costs
there's
that
also a
will be-
cost of not doing something. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Well said. Okay, anybody else? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much for your hard work.
Keep up the great work, all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kudos. Okay, then we will move back to Jeff's initial report.
All right, well, this is the exciting stuff of the evening.
We'll be the judge of that.
It is for those of us who like numbers.
True.
Well, these are a
True.
lot of
Thank you.
numbers, and this could have been,
Thank you.
maybe 25 PowerPoint slide. Decided to do a one-pager. But I'm going to kind of go through some areas, just to kind of talk about when we started discussions about the 22-23 budget back in December. We've had a couple updates since. Not much has changed because our state government, our legislature, has chosen to kind of bury its head in the sand and not make school districts sustainable in the state of Wisconsin. Not to ruin that word, but so we have to be creative. Now, the fortunate thing is that we do have, number one, if you look at the top, you'll see something that says September membership FTE. If you go all the way across, I'm not going to go through each of those numbers, but we do have some slowly increasing FTE counts over the next 5 years, starting with 22-23 on over. That's great because everything is based on the number of kids you have. And I say that by indicating, when you go down to the next row, the yellow column, it says $11,763. Notice that number doesn't change across all 5 of those years. That number hasn't changed for a while. And so far it's looking like it's not going to change for a while. That means we have 0 inflationary adjustments last year, this year.
And less money per pupil.
Well, there is no increase in our revenue cap.
Okay.
Furthermore, the per pupil categorical aid, which used to be really in the per pupil revenue cap, was the inflationary adjustment a long time ago because some legislators were tweaking around the system to try to balance out some property tax issues that some of them felt were not right. So additionally, where we get $742 per student, that amount hasn't changed for a while. And therefore, when you kind of look at the current year, 21-22, which we're in, just over $28.5 million is controlled. And if you go all the way across, you can see that even though we have a little bit of a rising number of students in our district, it's a very controlled portion of our budget. Now, when you go down to Fund 10, revenues and expenditures, you can see that we're just over about, and this doesn't include WEVA, because we're passed through for WEVA of about $23 million. So I wanted to give you kind of a picture of what life looks like just at our dollar amount, because it is truly, every 1% of change in our costs is $300,000. So, when we're at those typical 2.5%, 3% timeframes, we're closer to $1 million of new expenditures. Well, with no revenue changes from our state government, we get into a battle real quick with our budget. So when you see the green bar there, where it says surplus deficit, you can see this year, 21-22, that is a planned deficit of $401,000, by the way. That was money that was in the previous year, and we had projects that just didn't get finished, so that rolled into this year. So that actually, we do kind of have a balanced budget this year. But what if we had no new revenues from our state government or our federal government, or the use of our revenues that we gain for having WEVA? What does our picture already look like for next year? That'd be a $2.4 million budget deficit. And then you can kind of just carry that out left to right. I have to go fundraise with the Hockey Association, you know, kind of learn from them if this is where we're at. Where we're at is the referendum at some point. But what I wanted to then jump to is I'm kind of going to skip the middle. I want to jump down to the bottom where it says use all available one-time funding. What does that mean? In December, our school board approved us taking one-time money that Governor Evers had put in for 21-22, but didn't tell districts about it until sometime in January. So our board approved us to take that $400,000+ and move it to 22-23. Further, in the last couple weeks, we have been confirmed that our ESSER 3 funds are being made whole to help us with our ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 funds, which we did not get our full amount. So we have an additional $4.5 million that can be used in 22-23 and 23-24. So therefore, when you look at the green items there, line of surplus deficit, 22-23, I would actually be planning for us to use a good portion of, actually about, I think I put in there 3. I put in $2.5 million. We'd be using $2.5 million, $3 million in 22-23, which would give us a surplus of our own fund balance then if we're going to use federal dollars to kind of replace our state and local dollars. That will increase our fund balance. That will help us further down the line. And then in 23-24, we'd be using the other $2 million. And again, we would have a projected fund balance growth of $148,000. That gets us out to 24-25, where you see all of those one-time funds are gone, which is what the legislature wants us to be using. We'd be similar to a number of our counterparts that will be actually already starting referendums a little bit sooner, likely 23-24. You're going to see a lot of people going for funding.
Is that what you're proposing probably is not next year, but the following?
I'm proposing 24-25 because I do believe that we would be not only using the need for a referendum in for funding of 24-25, but we'd also be using a little bit of that fund balance that we build up over the next 2 years because we'd want to step this in. Also, the other piece is, if you look at the middle box, all the way at the bottom, it says biennial budget 23-25. The reason I kind of look at 24-25 being the year we need to go to referendum is we will really know what our firm picture is because the state will have already had its, hopefully, by year 2 of our fiscal year, we'll already have the biennial budget in the 23-24 year moving forward. So again, I do not believe that there'll be any choice for the school districts, similar to other school districts in the state, to go for a referendum. But it's how we make sure we're planning it out well in advance, knowing the timing of it, which usually a second year of a biennial is much better than the first year because you have more knowledge. You can put more knowledge in front of your taxpayers. And we've always been successful doing it, always for the second year of a biennial budget. There are certainly always opportunities for our legislature. I'm sure there's a lot of them listening to us right now for them to make a lot of corrections. Our real challenge outside of the revenues is the expenditure side as well. Our school districts around us, as the economy has heated up over the years, we've been constantly keeping pace and trying to exceed so we can draw better. Labor contracts are coming in the 6% area to, match, attract, retain staff. We can't lose touch of that. And frankly, you have a couple action items later tonight that kind of takes care of that. So, there's a lot of numbers on here. I would be happy to kind of go back and revisit. As I continue to build our budget out for next year, I'm actually start, like I've normally done, I'll start putting some more things out in writing, so you have information just more on the every other board meeting, not necessarily action items, just more information. So I'm always happy to meet with board members that want to spend any time with me to talk through where we've been at, where I think we're going to end at, and how we're going to get through this. But it will take, what's the other term I've been using lately? Taxpayer interventions.
That's what it is, yeah.
I think I got that from a middle school principal.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So we certainly could talk for hours, but I'm happy to answer any questions and take any feedback. And anytime you want to meet, happy to do that as well.
Questions? Comments? Mr. Mooney, you got anything? Anybody?
Still muted, Tom.
No, I think he's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes. Got it.
Thanks. The only comment I would make is that, well, two comments. First of all, Jeff, you've always been proactive. I appreciate that. You're always projecting into the future so there are no surprises for the board. Secondly, though, I think as a board member, I think many of us have similar questions or concerns or whatever. Maybe this would be something that sometime in the future we just have a board work session on any questions that we might have and things, additional information that you might want to share with us. And I'm talking about a few months from now versus right now.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Jeff. As always, we appreciate your working in our best interest here, and I know it's a difficult task, made even more difficult as we go on here without any corrections or support from our legislature. Okay, so.
COVID-19
COVID-19.
protocols. Well, we have 13 days left of school. So we did have our case numbers went up, and they came down, and they're going up. But with 13 days left, we are asking not to make any changes to our COVID protocols because we think that the ones that we have will work for the remainder of this school year. And then we're hoping that next school year, you don't have to worry about this at all. So, especially Aaron.
Thank you, that'd be a gift.
But, so at this point, we are asking that we just leave our COVID protocols the way they are for the remainder of this school year.
Okay. Lauren, Melissa, do you have any additional comments you'd like to add, or just kind of leave things status quo? There she is.
No, I agree. We can leave things status quo.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Melissa, you concur?
I concur.
Thank you. Any discussion? I would look for a motion then if.
You don't have to make a motion.
Oh, we don't.
You just leave it the same.
Oh, we're leaving it the same. That's correct. Okay. All right. Then we've done 12, discussion and possible action on proposed landfill.
All right, that was one of the items that we talked about at the joint meeting. So we already talked about the, working with the village on, joint playground area. The other discussion was the landfill. There was a guest speaker who talked that night. I sent you quite a long explanation of that was provided for information. There, you had one public comment, not to be read at today's meeting, but which I sent to each of you from one of the citizens about their thoughts and feelings on the landfill. In all honesty and truth, this is probably not a topic you're going to have a lot of say in. But you can have some say. So one of the things that you can do is you can ask for members of the administration to be put on the the LNA board so that we can start being a part of that process, at least being part of the discussion. So that is one thing that we could do. I don't think that gives us a vote, but it does at least let us sit at the table to hear discussions.
If I could just interject, Wayne, I think you might talk a little bit about the exclusion of the village of McFarland and the school district of McFarland to previous talks.
Right, we
meetings.
haven't been.
We have not been included in the process at all.
And I
to this
think,
point.
I think Mr. Mahoney made that very clear and did a wonderful job at that meeting, kind of letting them know. I think you overlooked some folks here.
Yeah.
So I thought you did a great job.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead, Wayne.
Yep, no, so I mean, so I think that, in the end, the decision, will be made by parties other than the school board, which is always one of those difficult things when, you know, everybody knows a landfill has to be built, but nobody wants the landfill to be built next to them. So I'm sure that they're taking a look at those things. But I think if you're looking at something that you could do proactively to at least be a voice at the table, I think that if you ask to be part of the process, and I've written a sample motion in which you could do that, at least it may give us a voice at the table to reflect your views and thoughts.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
Well, I really like this explanation that, this is from you then, Wayne, that, or Dr. Anderson, just, I like it, you know, so the landfill negotiates once and can operate forever, and how you talked about there's steps all along there, and I want, in a sense, that the public needs to know that it isn't just kind of a one-shot deal, we've decided it's over, or whatever. It's an ongoing process where we're involved, and yeah, you did make very clear, we're just probably not gonna have a veto power by any means, but we're gonna certainly have a place at the table, to be able to hear what's going on.
You have anything, Tom?
I think it's a good idea to have a place at the table, regardless of how much authority or control we might have or not have.
Sure. Megan, Kate?
I have a question.
Oh, sure, sorry. Go ahead.
I know the school district isn't directly involved, partly because we aren't within the 1,500 feet between a school and the proposed landfill. How far are we from the border there?
I think 2,200.
2,200.
I think, that's what I recall.
It's pretty close.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's certainly having a place at the table is I mean, we've already seen that there's a lot of concerned citizens who want to know more, and so certainly having a place at the table, I think would only be the right thing to do for those who have questions.
We could at least have some information.
Yeah, exactly.
We could answer questions potentially, because right now, we really don't have the resources to answer questions.
Well, not to mention, when you think about expansion of this district, we get closer and closer to that landfill.
Correct.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
In fact, it may, if they were to go ahead and do this, it may impact on our plans to even having a school out there.
Sure. Okay. Would
So I
anyone-
provided a sample resolution, so if you'd like, at least it gives us the next step in the process to potentially have a voice at the table.
Yep. So I would look for a motion if someone feels it's appropriate and necessary.
Well, I can read that.
Go ahead.
I move to have the district's administration approach the necessary parties to request that members of the McFarland School District Board and/or administrative staff be included the locally negotiated agreement, the LNA process, associated with the proposed landfill to be constructed near the Hara Golf Course.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll go Kate. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is action on school board virtual meeting format.
And we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting, and I think the only thing that I forgot to put down, which I would amend in the motion, is that I think what it looked like is that you want to keep options available for both virtual and in person. But the one thing I forgot to put down is that I think if they did written comments, we wanted to set like a word limit. And I don't remember exactly what the word limit was, I think about 200 words, but you want to put a word limit on that. So I think basically, if that is amenable, then I think you could hold your future meetings that way and just limit the written commentary to a set number of words.
No, I like this idea. I think it's wonderful to have, you know, in that sense, the people who are not able to be there in person or are uncomfortable reading it themselves, that we do it. But I do think that the word limit makes a lot of sense, because we had some, Kate, you had that one where it's just incredible, and I think we can probably shorten it.
Sure.
Get it done.
Anything else?
Yeah, but I've been thinking a lot about this, especially based on the feedback that we received from a community member about accessibility and all the things that hadn't occurred to me in terms of how each person might need to provide their comments in different manners. And I wondered if we could get more information about what other districts do, or how they manage this, or even how other municipalities manage it. And I mean, I'd be happy to do the research or do, you know, however be helpful. But I think it would warrant, it wouldn't necessarily change what we would take action on tonight, since, you know, it's recommended to do the same thing as to continue on. But we might find that there's a better, more manageable way to monitor this kind of stuff. And then I also wondered about the word limit, if we could time it so that, what's the time limit for people in person?
250 words is about 5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes.
And
Okay.
5 minutes is your
Okay.
policy, which
Yeah, so that,
is sometimes called.
Pretty close.
so then it's pretty close, and that seems like a fair amount.
I would argue that often people are talking with someone, and if there's really, like, I'd really like to make another point here, but I can't, I would tend to think you could probably work with a neighbor or a friend or whatever and probably get it worked out, so.
Also
I think we can make that work.
I suspect you are correct. Any other questions or comments? Well, I would accept a motion if someone cares to make one.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, Kate.
I move to provide the residents of McFarland School District the opportunity to view regularly scheduled board meetings both in person and virtually. The board will accept public comments via individuals who are physically present at the board meeting, who are participating in the board meeting virtually, or who have sent an email to the board president or superintendent in advance of the meeting that they would like to be read at its next regularly scheduled board meeting. However, written comments will have a word limit.
Sure.
Should we say how many?
200.
Of 250 words.
Sure. Do I have a second?
I will say that.
Bruce?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Did Tom?
I think he was just gonna say.
Any other discussion?
Okay.
If hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is action on recommended fee
I
schedule.
put down Tom will be second that, because I think he did.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
We about the same time, I think he beat me to it. So.
Got it.
All right, next one is the fee schedule. Every once in a while, you need an easy one. This is the easy one. So that, I mean, there are fees that we have each year that, you know, we charge for various things throughout the school district. So what we've given you is a copy of the fee schedule. So what we do is we take a look at what have we charged in the past, Did any of them require any type of an increase? If they did, what would be the fair increase to, pass on because of inflationary costs? That's what you have in front of you. So it's what then we can make available as people look at our facilities, if they need to rent our facilities. Whatever we would charge a fee for, this is what that schedule is. So hopefully you won't have many questions on that, because this is one of those perfunctory tests.
I just have one question. Did we actually then charge Stoughton for using, when we hosted their meeting?
No, because they didn't charge us when we used their
Okay,
track.
so that was good.
Trade.
All right. I don't know, I've been probably saying this forever, but I really do hope, I noticed that there's no fee for the track.
Oh, just for
using the track.
Yes.
And I'm hoping at some point we'll make it more available to the public. You can use it, but that's probably for a later issue.
No, I think that's legitimate. I think, whenever it's possible, we'd like to maybe expand hours of availability as well. But that's a scheduling issue that is above our pay grade.
Way above mine.
Well, at least it's outside of this discussion, but it can be a discussion for a future meeting.
Correct.
Aaron can't wait to start these agendas.
Yeah,
He's
that's what
taking
I'm working
notes.
on right
Uh-huh,
now.
yeah.
Tonight.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
No, I think, I certainly concur with what Bruce is saying. When I was on the board 2 years ago, the topic came up also. So my question is, has there been any need to have the track or the field more accessible to members of the community?
Yes. We have programming that's available in the morning. And when our students are here, that facility is used by our students all day long. In fact, recent conversations have been that we don't have enough space that's accessible for our students during the day. So we have certainly made efforts to do what we can for our community. And so we'll continue to look as we can. But I will indicate that it's really busy. And it's being used all the time by our students
Well,
when
that's
they're here.
what
So,
the facilities are here for.
which requires us then to put our safety lens on of making sure that facility is available for our students.
And I don't think anyone would argue with that, Jeff. The question is, can the facilities be more accessible and available to the community outside of the school hours or when students are using the facility?
Right, so hence we have used our broad committee of Bill Faust, our Buildings Grounds Director, Paul Ackley, our Athletic Director, Stu Schaefer, our Community Programming Director, and Alicia Fix, our Recreation Director, myself. We reviewed what we could, and the best thing we were able to come forward with was the morning time slot, partly also because we're also have our pool open, which allows us to have medical people around if something were to happen. And that does happen. So we try to align ourselves of when the community is using it, we're also available if something of an emergency nature comes to be.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? I'll go ahead. I'll move to accept the 2022-2023 fee schedule as presented.
Okay, and there are two fee schedules there. One is for facility use and the other one is for school fees.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on revised 2022-2023 professional staff salary schedule.
All right, we talked about this in closed session, trying to make an adjustment. You've already done your wage actually for next year, but this changes the longevity. And Mr. Mahoney explained, so rather than having incremental, we now have everybody at the same percentage rates and longevity. So that is our recommendation for this one, but don't worry, you got a couple more as we go.
Okay. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
No, I think we're trying to, again, address where we're at in the county. And so longevity, instead of being 1%, 2%, 2.5% is 3.5% for those that are in longevity for the 22-23 school year.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? If none, I would look for a motion.
I would move to accept the revised 22-23 professional staff salary schedule as presented.
I'll
Thank you,
second that.
Megan. Kate, second. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on 2022-2023 support staff and district-wide support staff wage schedules.
You have two schedules that were provided you by Mr. Mahoney earlier that have what we're looking at for the support staff wages for the upcoming year. And since Jeff works with us, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
So in the true light of how we work with committees, the board is getting these two passed on from the CZERC committee, which met last Thursday. So if there are questions, happy to answer. Otherwise, that group has really worked well over the years.
I just have a question about your lifeguard staff. How do those wages get determined, like for the high school kids that are lifeguarding?
So our community recreation program, that is not approved by the school board.
Okay, so that's what the NC means? Because it says on here lifeguard staff, group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4.
You're back on the facility fees
Oh.
rate schedule.
It says staff hourly wage benefit fees.
Yeah, so we do have so back on the previous action item,
Okay.
you're back.
Isn't this support staff wage? I'm confused.
No,
Oh, I see,
this-
I'm clicking on
these
the
are-
wrong one.
These are
Okay.
the charges that we
Okay, got
have
it.
for, but it's a great question. So
There you go.
Hey, I'm happy to answer that question. We take the actual cost of the salary and benefit or wage and benefit for our custodial, food service technology, and lifeguards when we have to charge out to groups for the actual costs.
Okay.
So that was a couple action items ago, but that's the answer.
Well,
to
the
that.
reason I'm asking is it seems like it's quite a bit lower than outside of, so I can't see it specifically in here, but I know just from talking to some of the students that they leave to go other places to.
Oh, as far as their
pay.
Their lifeguard
Yeah,
pay.
so their
Actually,
hourly wages, and
in
so that's what
June-
I was asking, is that incorporated in this or not? Because they're,
No, they're not incorporated in the support
Okay.
staff. And we do benchmark, and Stu does the benchmarking for that group with Oregon, Stoughton, Monona, and the east side area.
Okay.
So, and we're competitive enough to get our kids to stay and hold with us. And yes, there are a few other areas that people can go to. It's kind of like the municipal pools. You can go work for minimum wage at a municipal pool, or you can go work at Bishop's Bay and make $4 more an hour. But you also have to travel there.
okay.
Anything else? Well, then, I would look for a motion.
I can move to accept the 22-2023 support staff wage schedules as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Bruce, any other discussion?
I have another question.
Okay.
So I know when this was presented at CSERC, there was some areas where we had some gaps that you were aware of, especially as we got kind of further down the groups, in comparison to some of the newer districts. How are we?
So we didn't make any adjustments. I'm still looking at that data as if we might have to, if we continue to have issues replacing this coming year, we may even have to make an adjustment mid-year. Because again, those were nursing assistant, which most of our nursing assistants are in their early years, so we're very high in the schedule there. On the backside, we're noticing that other districts are creeping up faster, like $2-3 more per hour, but we need to learn more about that. And then our custodial is another area that we have to be mindful of. So we're kind of watching how this next go around, because we have 2 or 3 openings this summer to kind of see where that's at. But we're really good on the front end. So it's where are we at with people that are here for a couple, like 5-10 years, and are they starting to look around further?
Well, because we're losing a few people already, right, to that?
Most people are making decisions right now in our custodial and even our special ed a little bit more about where they're driving from.
Okay.
Because of gas prices.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
So
If
we'll
nothing-
continue to keep monitoring that.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. So, any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Action on 2022-2023 McFarland School District open enrollment applications.
All right, so this is, again, one of those perfunctory ones. In January, you set the open enrollment caps for the next year. So basically, you said, here's how many individuals we will allow in, depending on what our student body is. So those are set in January. Then the open enrollment process where people can apply to come into our district or apply to go out. So we have lists of students. I didn't rewrite all of the motions that you have made, but they're on your larger agenda. So there's just a series of motions that now you have to take to say, this group is going to be allowed in, this group is not going to be allowed in, and they're all for the criteria that you set forth in January.
Correct. Okay. At this time, we recommend approval of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at McFarland School District. Do I have a motion? Well, I guess I just made the motion. So let's do it that way. Yep. Bruce, your second?
Yes.
Additional comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Kate, you want to go to the next? Maybe?
It's at the top of the page.
What? What are you talking about? All right, at this time, we recommend the denial of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at McFarland School District.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Megan? Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, at this time, we recommend approval of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance outside the McFarland School District.
I can second that.
Bruce? Comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And now we're looking at action on 2022-2023 WEVA K-8, WEVA High School, Career Academy, and Insight School open enrollment applications.
And you have again a series of recommendations.
At this time, we seek separate board approval for each exhibit listed below. At this time, we recommend approval of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at WEVA K-8.
Can second that.
Megan? Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we recommend denial of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at WEVA K-8.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we recommend approval of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at WEVA High School.
I'll second.
Tom? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay.
At this time, there's more.
Yep.
At this time, we recommend denial of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at WEVA High School.
Okay,
Fisher, we'll second that.
all right. Bruce? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we recommend approval of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at WIDCA.
I'll second.
Tom? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we recommend denial of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at WIDCA.
I'll second that.
Megan? Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we recommend approval of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at ISWI.
I'll second that. Additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we recommend denial of the students listed in the attached exhibit requesting attendance at ISWI.
I'll second.
Tom? Additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to action on open enrollment reversal process.
All right, every once in a while, something will happen in which we have to change the decision, like a student will be expelled on that, and then we'll need to reverse it. So what I did in the McFarland minutes is give you a sample motion to give us the power to change that when it's necessary.
Any discussion?
Has this happened before?
Yes. What normally will happen, Tom, is a person will be expelled from their district, and we won't know that when they've applied, but when we get the records, we find out that they were expelled, and no public school district needs to take a student that's been expelled from another public school district in Wisconsin, and then normally we would deny those. But we may not know that when they've applied until we get the records.
Correct.
They may not have been forthcoming.
That can take some time. Anything else, Tom?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion to the superintendent or his or her designee to reverse any of our open enrollment decisions based upon updated data related to expulsions, wait lists, and/or special education status. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we were at a point where I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that.
Bruce?
I'll second.
Kate? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and we are adjourned at 9:20
And just think,
PM.
the next time you meet, it will be after graduation and all the staff and students will be on their summer break.
Wow.
My, how time flies.
All right, thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.